Thank you, viewers, for sharing with us today. Thank you for coming here. This is Harrison MAINA from Ajabu Media. We are introducing a new show, Diaspora Matters. This is a show where we will be inviting various guests in our community from Kenya, from Africa in general, to discuss issues going on in our community. And we welcome you. Tonight we are pleased to have Dr. F. George Njoroge, a Kenyan living in the diaspora who has discovered a medication to treat hepatitis C. We have Dr. Njoroge today here. We have invited him into our studios. Dr. Njoroge has been celebrated as one of the Kenyan heroes, and we welcome you readers and viewers to share with us and take part in this. Karibu. Mr. Njoroge, here we are inviting you. We have had reports that you have discovered a medication, the first ever medication to treat hepatitis C. How do you feel about that?
Thank you, Ajabu, for having me here. It's a pleasure to be with you and to discuss about things that we've done, interesting things that we've done. The discovery of the hepatitis C drug was really a blessing to me. I feel overwhelmed with joy. It's, you know, this is just like climbing Mount Everest. You feel like you've achieved. More important is that we coming up with a drug like this that's going to be treating numerous people who would be suffering from the disease or dying from the disease now can be cured. I feel very blessed to be part of this.
That is very interesting. Dr. Njoroge, are you a doctor or are you a scientist?
Okay, that's a good question, because I get that question every day. Some people even will call me and ask me what kind of medication should I be taking. And it's good that you've asked so that I can make it clear. Really, I'm a scientist. I'm a pharmaceutical organic chemist by training. That means I was trained to make molecules that would be useful as drugs, as medicines. I'm not a medical doctor. I don't prescribe, but I can go to the lab, use the science that I've learned over the years to make new medicines that are useful in treating various diseases, one of them being the hepatitis C. And
actually, many people seem not to understand exactly what is hepatitis C. Okay. What can you tell us? What is hepatitis C to an average common person? How would they understand what kind of a disease is that?
Yes, hepatitis C is an infection that comes from a virus. There are two things that mainly give about these diseases. You have the bacteria, you have the virus, and sometimes to a lesser extent the fungi. But this comes from a virus. It's just like, you know, we get virus from AIDS. It's the virus from AIDS is a little bit different from the virus from hepatitis C, in that the virus from hepatitis C gets into the cell of a human being and multiplies there. It doesn't go to the DNA. The virus from AIDS goes to the DNA and integrates there, and that's why it's so difficult to kill it. This one you can clear it and have the patient cured once you give them the right treatment.
Wow, that is very interesting. And as a researcher and you creating these molecules and all that, yeah. What was your exact role in this discovery of, do you call it
Vitriris?
Vitriris.
Yes.
What is your exact role in that discovery? You led a team of about 5 scientists. Were they 4 or 5?
Actually, it was a bigger team than that. What you are alluding to is the group that was inducted to the Hall of Fame for, you know, for the heroes of chemistry by the American Chemical Society. That was the nucleus of the team. The whole team was even more than 40 people. And this is mostly PhDs and masters professionals who are, you know, who've been chemists for a long time. But that also is a smaller group. There were also many other people, including clinicians who tested the drug, and also other people who did other studies to make sure that the molecule went. So if you bring everybody together, it will be more than 100 people. But the group that I was responsible for was about a group of 30 people who were led by team leaders and I was the director directing the team to the discovery of the drug.
That's new information we didn't know. How long did it take this whole team to come up with these? How many years did you guys put into work into this thing?
Right. Well, it's an interesting question, and people, I think, sometimes when you see a drug in a bottle, you think maybe this thing was so easy to make, and and some people say, oh, this medicine is so expensive. The whole research, we started working on the particular molecule, the particular medicine of the class that has gone to the market about 1996. It took about 15 years to get that drug from the laboratory to the market. That's how long it took to get this drug out.
That's unbelievable.
Exactly, it's very unbelievable. And it took efforts of all these people in chemistry, people in biology, and other sciences to come in and pull together so that they can come up with a molecule. Because you have to start from the basics. You have to start from the enzyme, you go to the cell, you go to the higher living species, until you can go to the clinical trials, and then you come up with a drug like Victris.
Dr. Njoroge, I'm interested to know, when the first idea came to look into that treatment, into developing this, how did that idea develop? Who came up with this initial idea of thinking, oh, we can treat hepatitis C, it's not such a big deal?
Well, hepatitis C was identified by around 1989, when people even didn't know it was hepatitis C. They just called it non-A, non-B, and later on they realized it's a different type of hepatitis. Now, so the idea is for scientists is to see this virus, what is unique about it? What does it do that we can intercept? And that's where the scientists come. We know that this virus has something that looks like a scissor. It cuts a protein inside itself. And for us as scientists, you can now start thinking, how is it cutting? And can I stop this virus from cutting? And that's where we come in with our chemistry. And this chemistry is just making molecules, like aspirin, it's made up of various molecules. So we come up with an idea and design something that will maybe jam where that virus is gonna cut. Just like you would do if you had to open your door with a key, and somebody comes and puts a mirror in there and blocks that hole. When you come there, you cannot open your door anymore. So then we can translate that into a chemical sense. And I don't want to go into the details.
Right. And
then come up with a molecule, which is the medicine that will debilitate this virus, so that it doesn't do what it wants to do.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but what I hear you telling me is that, first of all, as a scientist, you study that virus.
Yes.
In a microscope. You look at how it is behaving, and then you discover you start thinking of how you can intercept some of its behaviors right there. Is that what you guys did?
Exactly. Well, a combination of people. They are the biologists who did the microscopic work, and they saw what the virus were doing. Then they told us that story. In science, usually, it's a combination of information from different fields,
okay.
From biology, from chemistry, and also from things we call like pharmacology. All those people bring in onto the table some element of science which we work on. So they bring us and they tell us this is what the enzyme is doing. We have people who can also see these molecules in or this viruses or the proteins made by these viruses. They can see them actually on an X-ray, and we can see where the virus it's using an enzyme to cut, where it's cutting. So we can now design as chemists what are the locks or the keys that we can put there to jam the lock. And that's basically how the organic chemist comes in and works with the other people to make sure that you come up with a drug like this.
Okay.
That eventually, cures.
Okay, now, so when this information came, did it come to you? And that's what was my question in your role as one of the team leaders here. Did it come to you and then you started thinking of?
Right. So that information came to me, and also then I sat together with my group of very talented people from various universities, Ivy League schools and all this. So we worked together and started figuring out how can we really intercept this virus by what it is doing and stop it from multiplying and giving more viruses? How can we do this? So we sat together and we had a blueprint.
And he came to you as you are the leader of what? Can you exactly tell us?
I was directing that group. I was the director of that group.
In Mark Laboratories?
In the originally at Sharing Prow, which was later bought by Mark, you know, and become an enterprise of Mark.
Yeah, sorry for the interruption, but yeah, please continue. So when it came to you as a group, and now you started figuring out.
Yes.
As scientists, now you figured that there's a way you can intercept.
Right. So then we went on the table and started doing, you know, what kind of molecules would do that. And then we came up with molecules. For every drug you discover, this is an interesting game, because it's a game where you have to live with failures. Sometimes we made about more than 5,000 molecules. And
wow.
Out of that 5,000 molecules, only one of them was able to go all the way through. The others failed for one reason or the other. So it's a game where you have to be very patient. You have to keep on thinking, revising your scheme, revising your strategy until you get the right molecule. And it involves a lot of back and forth talking with scientists, being critical of what you're doing. You come up with an idea, it is positively criticized, and you refine it so that you can come up even with a better way of making the molecule, until you get that molecule that goes there and does what it's supposed to do without too much of the side effects.
Are you telling us that the journey was not as simple as people may think, that you also had a lot of failures along the way, but you came up every time, and for you to discover 5,000 molecules and only one that could work? How much of patience? That was a lot of patience with your team.
Yeah, this is what I would like even people going to the sciences. When you get a molecule like this, you are overjoyed, you know, you become overwhelmed with joy. And it's the realization that to get there, it's really an arduous task, you know. You have to go through those failures. But I can tell you, when we found out this molecule is going to be going to human beings, that was the first thing. And then after it went to the human beings, we could see that the viral load was being reduced. There was no virus that, you know, or we lessened the amount of virus that was being formed, until it went all the way to phase 3, and we found that it was safe. It was reasonably safe in human beings. That was the most enjoyable time of my life. And that's all the suffering that we had to go through with all the failures. We could not, you know, we forgot about all that. So it's an interesting process, full of failures, but the success that you get out of all those failures makes up for all the losses, you know, all the failures that you've done.
Recently, I read a testimonial that there is one lady who is very happy with this new drug. She has been having chronic hepatitis. She has lost 2 brothers from the disease.
Right.
And since she started this medication, her doctors prescribed the medication, the new medication that you discovered, and she's now feeling better. The doctors are saying the viral load is going down, and she can see herself living a long life.
Right.
Specifically because of this drug. And we hear that, yes, this drug kills 350,000 people a year due to the damage it does to the liver. So for you to hear this kind of a testimony, how does that make you feel?
No, this is something that really makes me feel so good and overwhelmed with joy. We see a lot of testimonials like this. We see blogs and people writing how they feel. And it makes me feel that I've achieved something very important in this world. When we come to this world, we are endowed with a lot of talents. And those talents we get manifested when one comes up with something that will alleviate people's suffering or cure, you know, a disease like this. Somebody who would have died, but they are cured by the drug. You feel that you made an achievement, which is the reward you're coming into this world. So that to me, as you say, is something that gives me a lot of joy. And I feel, you know, and I feel blessed to have been able to be a part of a group like this that was able to come up with a medication that this disease kills about 200 million people worldwide, as you said, are infected with this disease. America by itself, about 4 million people. So a drug that can make a difference to this number of people, having that knowledge, and that's why all the glory is to God, because that's the one who's provided you with the knowledge to do these things. I feel really, I feel overjoyed, with this kind of things, and I feel blessed about it.
It is incredible for you being a Kenyan, and we know you also came from very humble beginnings back there in the villages of Kenya, for you to come up with this kind of a drug that will affect so many people in every corner of the world. That is a very, very huge achievement. But my question also would be, for those people who are already infected, how do they expect to get, how can they ever learn about this medication, and how would they get it? Yeah. Let's say people in other countries like Africa, Kenya, right, India, whatever.
Right. The information is out there. It's advertised by the companies that sell this drug. The other things people have to understand, different people from different countries would have to talk to their medical doctors so that they can find what kind of, we call it a genotype that they belong to, because it depends, the activity of the drugs depends on which genotype. So going to their doctors, and now since it's been approved by FDA, the information is only in the websites, and even if you Google today Victryris, you'll get a lot of information as to where you can get it, how it is used, and with working with your doctor, it's a very important thing.
Okay, Dr. Njoroge, do you know whether how many people in Kenya probably have been affected with hepatitis C, or do they know? A lot of times we know that some people in Kenya don't even know if they are suffering from a particular disease.
Yeah, this is the interesting thing about hepatitis C. There was an article that came in Newsweek several years ago and called it's a silent disease. Actually, sometimes a lot of people have the disease, but they don't know that they have it. It's when they go for checkup and for other things that they realize that they have this infection. And so it's always good, when doctors or other practitioners work, they test for these things, because sometimes it's very difficult to see its manifestation. And what happens when although it's a silent disease, when it starts becoming active, it moves very fast and gets to the liver, and you can see it chewing up the liver, and getting things what we call liver cirrhosis and the like, and that can advance very quickly and kill patients.
But the people in the rural villages in Kenya, we know in Kenya the access to quality health care is not that very good, right, unless you have a lot of money.
Right.
If a person is in the village and they go to a dispensary, what are the signs that they would feel? Is it pain in the stomach?
Right.
And sometimes we fear you would go to a dispensary, right, and get misdiagnosed.
Right.
And how do you think of, can you please clear us for us, right, in your opinion, what people in the villages, right, should do?
Right. Yeah. Again, it's very tricky, because the symptoms sometimes are very mild, because sometimes it's just a flu. And sometimes you might just think it's a regular cold or something like that. So essentially what I would advise is when people go for other tests, they should include that as part of their test, and the medical practitioners, when they do this, they should include it, because if you pick it early, it's easier to treat it. So that's, it's not like other diseases where you feel there's inflammation and you can quickly figure it out. Could be the symptoms could be mild, but if it persists for too long, then it becomes very complicated.
I'm going to further that question, because many people, when they get homa, we call it homa, you probably think homa is just a cold, right, and then it comes and you take some Panadol, Tylenol, and you think it's going to go away. Right. If you're infected, you wouldn't tell your doctor to test you for hepatitis C, because you do not know. So do doctors catch this through blood testing, or through what kind of testing?
Yeah, there are blood tests that are there, and people should not be scared, that you think maybe I have it. If there's an opportunity to test for it, it's good to test for it. As you hear, sometimes it's a silent disease. They might be able to see the antigens, you have the antigens, but that does not mean that you're gonna get it right away. It might take several years, and you have a chance to be treated. But once in a while, when you go for physical and your physical and things like that, it's good to have it put as part of your testing.
Oh, okay.
And that would help you.
Okay. Dr. Njoroge, this kind of discoveries, what is their impact to a country like Kenya or Africa in general? What is this? These are huge discovery.
Yes.
What do you think the impact would be to a country like Kenya, especially economically or health-wise? What are some of the impacts you think it may have?
Well, I take your question means generally with this biotechnology coming up, discovery of medicines,
right?
What impacts they would give to Kenya, which is, I think, is a very important question, because in Kenya and African countries at large, we have the resources. We have the resources in terms of people and also in terms of money. I know it's not like in the Western countries, but we still have some resources we can put into this. And it's very important that our entrepreneurs in African countries should start getting into this kind of things, because when you are in things like biotechnology, you're on the top of the discoveries. You are in the top of technology. And I can give you an example. Look, in US, or one of the drugs that was discovered here is for a cholesterol lowering drug called Lipitor. Lipitor, I think in 2 years ago, amassed about $11 billion. That's close to about 800 and maybe 40 billion Kenyan shillings. That's equivalent to the whole of Kenyan budget.
Oh yes.
And so if Kenya put some investment into discoveries like this, and they come up at least with one drug, I can tell you that could pay us, could pay for our whole budget for all the ministries, all the status, and we would be in a very nice position, you know, in moving forward in terms of economy.
What do they need to do to put this? Do they need to put up labs, or what do they need to do specifically?
They need to invest on our young people. We need to encourage people to get into technologies, into sciences, and they need our entrepreneurs, people who have money, not just to go and start another duka, another shop over there. Invest, you know, have somebody, invest on somebody where the research could take several years. Don't just ask for businesses or things that can bring you money within the next 3-4 months. This could take maybe 10, 15 years. But if you ever get something, and you don't need many of them, you need one home run, then Kenya would be in a very delightful position. It would be in a great position. So we have just to have people have a different mindset that they can support, you know, our scientists. We have scientists in various institutions, the KAMAU. Okay, people like, you know, those are people who are working on discoveries like that. They should be empowered. They should be given enough resources, and not expecting them to be coming up later with a medicine in 1 or 2 years, but have a long-term expectations for, you know, their discovery. And this will help our future children, and will help our country of Kenya or Africa per se.
We had one time that there was a Kenyan researcher. I remember his name was Dr. Obel, and they said that he had come up with a AIDS medication that had potential to treat AIDS. Such researchers, where do you have any idea where they are or what they do, or is there any way in KAMAU do they follow up with these people?
Well, I'm not going to comment a lot on that, because mostly, as you have seen my work, if you go Google or wherever in the journals, you see the report of all the works. It's very clear, and science has to be conducted and checked by various agencies and make sure that it's the right science. I'm not saying because I haven't seen what kind of science and the results and the reports that they had. But science is tricky because you cannot do it in a crude way. You have to make it available. It has to be very transparent to the scientific community. They have to see your publications and review them and criticize them. And when you come to the drug discovery, you have agencies like FDA which look at every test that was done and question it and the validity and the outcome. So it's very, very rigorous and difficult thing. So you cannot just go there and say, I came up with a drug. You have to show information. Like you do, if you are doing a test, you have to show that what was the placebo effect? You had one group that was not given the medicine and one group that was given the medicine, and you have to demonstrate that the group that was given the medicine had a better, was statistically better than the one that didn't have the medicine. So it's a complicated venture, but when it's done in the best way, when it's done well, the results are very useful and beneficial to humankind.
Dr. Njoroge, I'm sure many viewers would like to know, now that you have discovered this drug that is going to affect a lot of people worldwide, many viewers are also curious, like I am curious, if you will ever put your mind into something like discovering something for curing AIDS. Now that you have succeeded in this one, what is your next goal? What is your next discovery?
Well, right now I would say AIDS per se. As a scientist, we are thinking overdrive. We are thinking all the time. When we get new scientific information, we work on it and we see what are the potentials of doing something in that area. There are a lot of people right now working in the AIDS arena. It's a very, very vibrant area. Actually, I can tell you the discoveries that have come in the AIDS area are fantastic, I mean. But there's still a lot that needs to be done. So I don't know where the future will take me. We'll keep on doing sciences in the areas that come. I don't know, I can't predict whether I'm going to do maybe 5, 10 years from now. But if an opportunity, if I see my science will direct me in places like that, I'll definitely go there.
That's good. And also, Dr. Njoroge, when scientists try all these things and you put so much energy into something, and then at the end of the day, it doesn't work, do you feel frustrated? Do you feel very, very frustrated for life, or how do you handle with the things that you did not succeed on, and you put a lot of energy into them?
And this is something, a characteristic that a scientist has to develop, you know. And I consider any of my experiments that fails gives me more confidence or give me more spirit to try again. And I tell people, failure to me is a dress rehearsal for success. Whenever I fail, it gives me more energy. It asks me from my innate Njoroge, what else can you do to make it succeed? Because I know if it succeeds, it will supersede all the failures that I've had. So I am not afraid of failure. I'm used to failure a lot. And I failed a lot in life. But it's the little successes that I've acquired that make me feel so good and make me feel that I've contributed to the humankind.
Thank you very much. Now, when did you go to school, Dr. Njoroge?
Okay, I don't know where you want me to start.
You start from your primary school. Let's start from where primary school to high school,
yes,
to university,
right.
to current.
I went to KAMAU primary school and then Kiawairia. It was very challenging. Those days were very challenging, you know.
And where is KAMAU?
In rural Kenya. It's in Githunguri, in Kiambu. So after that, then I moved to Thika High School, where, you know, I did my O-levels and then my A-levels. Those were very, very good days at Thika High School. I remember I was the deputy school captain.
That's interesting, because I was also at Thika High School.
For Thika people who are listening, I made sure that before they were having one dumpling, I made sure that there are 2 dumplings. So that was a good achievement there. And then from there, I went to University of Nairobi, Chiromo. Did my Bachelor's of Science in Chemistry. And then joined the Case Western Reserve University in Cleveland, Ohio, where I did my PhD. And then joined Sharing Prow at that point in New Jersey as a research scientist, and climbed all the way to the position of the directorship in drug discovery. So that's how I come up, you know. It was in Sharing Prow for close to about 22, 23 years. And all those years I spent in the labs doing drug discovery.
It's interesting that you went to Thika High School. I also went to Thika High School.
Oh, so, great.
I'm glad to know that you're also an old boy of Thika High School.
Very nice to hear.
And also at Nairobi University.
Right.
And that's very, very good. But along the way, what motivated you to be a scientist in your school? Did you like science and math, or what motivated you to become a scientist?
Yeah, it's interesting how all these things evolved. I remember when I was a young boy going to primary school, which is elementary school here. I used to see one of my grandmothers, giving, local medicine, traditional medicine to people. And I could see some of them saying that they are being treated, and that was amazing to me. When I went to high school, I was very curious about how things worked, especially in a scientific sense. I liked biology a lot, and I liked chemistry. Then when I went to the university, I really was torn between wanting to go to medical school or going to do a science subject. And eventually I decided I wanted to do the sciences. For reasons which I cannot explain right now, there were reasons behind that. So it's when I did chemistry and biology, and realized that chemistry was very interesting subject because it interfaces with many other subjects. And eventually, I was able to get into, get my degree in chemistry, in organic chemistry, and then moved on for my graduate studies.
Okay. Welcome back, viewers. We are still here with Dr. F. Njoroge, the Kenyan scientist who discovered medication to treat hepatitis C. Dr. Njoroge, it's very interesting that you attended Thika High School and Nairobi University, and I also would like to let you know that I also attended Thika High School.
Oh, very interesting.
And Nairobi University. But along the way, it never occurred to me to become a scientist. I'm curious, what motivated you to become a scientist? At what age did you think that now you really, this is the line that you want to follow?
That's an interesting question, MAINA. Because when I tried to recall when it occurred to me that I wanted to be a scientist, early on during my boyhood, I recall my late grandmother, who used to treat some of the folks in our village, using a traditional medicine. And it was amazing to me how he would go and pick some, some plants, some roots or some leaves, and make a concoction, and she would really treat people. So then when I went to Thika High School, I started getting a good knack for biology and chemistry, and I thought some of the questions that we are answering were very interesting, and I followed it up when I went to the University of Nairobi. I had to choose either going to the medical area to do a degree in medicine, or to do a science subject like chemistry or biology. I opted to do actually chemistry and biology, but then realized I was more inclined to, or I was more impressed by the chemistry, because it interfaced most of these other subjects, the biology, the physics. And it was very interesting to me, so I went into chemistry, but purposely to be able to make molecules that would become medicines. And when I was taught chemistry, I saw things like aspirin came from chemistry, and many other molecules that were being penicillin and things like that. I thought this is where I should be. So when I went to graduate school, I decided I have to do medicinal chemistry, organic chemistry. And that's what brought me to coming to a place like Sharing Proud, where I ended up being in the drug discovery, rising all the way to the directorship.
Wow. And also, another question we would like viewers to always ask themselves. In your title, you always see Dr. F. George Njoroge. What does F stand for?
Okay, yeah, well, when I was being baptized, I was told there was, one lady who told me that you need to have two names. It was a general thing, it was an in thing that you should have two baptismal names. So F stands for Frank, but really people refer to me as George. But you see some people calling me Frank George Njoroge, but actually my first name really is George. And I have a first initial.
Okay, great. And do you have family?
Yes, I have a family. I have my wife, Esther Njoroge, got married back in '87. She also went to school at Cleveland State in Ohio. And we are blessed with two beautiful kids. My first daughter is Joyce Njoroge, just graduated from Dartmouth College, and now she's doing medicine at Case Western Reserve University. Then we have a son, Jesse Kimani Njoroge, who also just finished high school and joined Cornell University. She wants to be a pharmacist. I don't know whether it's my influence or it's just because I like science, but they're following my footsteps, and I hope they will propagate, or they will move forward things that we've already started.
That is great. So it looks like it's like daughter like father, like son like father.
I would take it that, but I don't want it to come out that I've influenced them, you know, to do things that I've done. Maybe they've seen something interesting in what I do, and I'm happy about it. When kids identify things that they like to do, it's good for them because they will enjoy what they're doing and they will do them well without you being agonizing too much. So I see them loving what they do, and that is a pleasure to me to see our kids, you know, doing things that they have a potential, they have a future with.
Great, good. Congratulations. That is good for your family.
Thank you.
And how do you feel about being recognized by the New England Kenyan Welfare Association, this organization called NECWA, during this celebration of Mashujaa Day as a diaspora Shujaa? You know, Shujaa, we really look like Shujaa is like a hero. How do you feel this new organization for Kenyans here recognizing you as a diaspora Shujaa?
So it's a great pleasure. In the beginning, you know, even when I was when I was inducted to the Hall of Fame as a hero of chemistry, it was a little bit difficult in the beginning to accept. But now when I look back and, you know, I see the kind of things we've done and what, you know, differences they're gonna make to our humankind, I feel it's a good honor, and I feel very, very honored and humbled by this organization. But more important, I would say, it's a blessing. I don't want to attribute all this to myself. It's to the glory of God. And I think we are all Shujaas in one way or the other. In whatever we do, if we use the talents that we've been endowed by our Almighty God, and we use them in the right way and come up with something that will make a difference to your fellow people, that by itself should make you happy and feel you are a hero in that particular area. But this is I really appreciate being accorded, you know, this honor by your organization. You
have played a big role in the Kenyan community in New England, in Boston, for many years. You've been here before to help raise funds for churches when we didn't have churches, and we are coming up. And for you to be here again, for these people to recognize you, what would you tell the people in New England and the Kenyans in the entire diaspora, in other countries like other states or other countries, starting with the people in the New England region? Do you know people here? Who do you know, or who would you like to thank, and what can you tell people here in this region?
Yes, for the people, I've been involved with people in New England area. I don't know since when, maybe 15, 20 years ago. We've gone to church events, you know, bringing up new churches and bringing people together. And I've always felt good and at home having all these people with me. Actually, some of them have become like part of my family. I know I have a big family in the New England area, and I appreciate that they've supported me in many things. For them and for everybody who comes from diaspora, one thing I would say is we should not shortchange ourselves. In whatever we do, let it do the best way we can. Not that people are gonna recognize us for one thing or the other. Do it for yourself, for your God and for yourself. And do it the best way. If you're taking care of a sick person, do it the best way you know how. And do it in a way when it's all done, at the end of the day, you feel this is a job well done. And it doesn't matter what job it is. You're gonna be a hero in that particular job. So that's what I would like to tell people. I have, you know, many people that I can say that have supported me, the church people. We have people like Pastor KAMAU, and other pastors around. They've helped me grow when I come to their churches. The messages are very important, and they're very important in my personal growth. And many other people, there's so many people that I would like to thank, but all people, New England people, they are in my heart, and we've met in various places, and I feel that they are like part of my family, and I thank all of them for the support they've given me.
Definitely, many people here also feel like you are part of them. You are part of this community,
Yes.
and that is why they also invited you here. And finally, because you are a father, and your children were born in America. Were they born in America?
They were both born in America.
How do you see the Kenyan, that generation, that first Kenyan American generation, those our children? How can you advise the Kenyans here we are having children here? How can we integrate into this community? How do these children, what can you speak to these children of Kenyans who are born in America and have no attachment to Kenya? How do you have an advice?
Well, this is an important question because all of us are immigrants. We've come to this country to make our lives better, and we came here for that purpose. Well, the thing is, when we came here, we had our families. We got our families here. We brought in kids now, and now they've been through the American system. They are going to American schools. They have American friends. And we have to be careful because sometimes we feel, yes, you know, we should have them understand some of our Kenyan traditions, and that's very, very important. But on the other hand, we have to be very understanding. They are also Americans, and we have to respect that. The challenge here is to make sure that we blend our culture and the culture they have adopted here in the US. For example, one time I was here in Norway. I was visiting my sister, and we were staying in one of the hotels. And it was like 11 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday. My son went down second stairs in the hotel, and there were some people singing there, and they were singing in Kikuyu, Anake Ukirai. So my son came back to where we were staying, the room where we were staying. He said, Daddy, your people are here. Your people are here. And I was wondering, what do you mean our people are here? So the point is, instead of feeling bad about it, I had to tell you, these are also your people. But I could understand on the other side, you know, he also has the American part of it. So I didn't want to challenge him, but it's only I have to blend him in and tell him, these are also your people. But you can see we have to respect their culture and our culture and try to blend it in. And when we go, like we take them to Kenya, the worst thing we do is just sit there talking Kikuyu, some of them, even with some of them not understanding what you're talking about. And they will not want to go back to Kenya again. So let them bring in, well, I'm not saying you don't do those things, include them in some of your discussions. But be understanding that they're in a different country and they've adopted culture. Try to help them blend in and in the future become, you know, like Kenya and like US, so that they see themselves as if they belong to the two countries.
Do you want to go back to Kenya yourself? Do you hope to go back, or you still want to live here in the US?
No, my aim, my goal, and my prayers are when I retire, I go back to Kenya and I continue what I'm doing there in Kenya. I would like to. I'm already participating in a lot of aspects in Kenya's economic growth, but I would like to do more, especially in the scientific arena. I would like to participate in, you know, bringing up new technologies in Kenya, and hopefully, you know, I will also attract my kids to come there later on. But it is my goal to go back there and pay back, you know, and help my country achieve some of the things we haven't achieved, things that we talked about a little bit earlier.
Thank you very much, Dr. Njoroge.
I appreciate it. Thank you also.
It's very nice to meet you.
It was a pleasure.
You are Diaspora Shujaa. We all appreciate you and we celebrate you, and we all give you a love.
And good, you know, may Ajabu do a good job as it is doing, and continue doing better job for our diaspora community.
Thank you.